Hi everyone, welcome back. This week I'm trying the Oasis swirl. It's invented by Edgar and it's part of the Soap Club challenge for this month. I'm going to go through some of the supplies that I'm using. I am using a long soap mold, a loaf soap mold, sorry, with two dividers. I just used some corrugated cardboard that had a heavy coating on it, so that it was thick and it wouldn't like get ruined in the process. For the inside swirl of this, I am using these three colors. If you want to buy these, I will put the link down below. And then for the ombre part of the soap, I'm using two darker colors because I thought that would make the colors pop as best as they could. This is the first time I'm doing an ombre swirl, so it was definitely a challenge. But before we start mixing everything, I'm going to show you the how the swirl is achieved. So we just kind of make these little heart shapes and then we go around. And then you can either do it one pass through or you can rotate the soap mold. So I'll show you guys that a little bit later too, what was happening. So that's going to be the kind of pattern that we use as far as the swirling technique of this video. I'm kind of going to jump around a little bit. I will incorporate the oils and the measurements if you just want to follow along, because I know some of you guys like that. Today I'm just using coconut oil, olive oil, safflower oil, and then I'm going to use coconut milk as well for the lye water replacement. Reminder, if you're using coconut milk or any kind of milk, you want to keep your temperatures really low. You can watch any of my videos on milk soaps. I have a lot of them on my channel if you look at them. I did not freeze my milk this time, so when I was mixing, I was trying not to let it curdle, so it did take some extra time as far as like mixing everything together. I would recommend keeping the temperatures under 110 degrees before you add another spoonful of lye. Because if you get like around 120 degrees is when it starts to turn brown and curdle, so that's definitely bad. Once I had all the lye added, I know it kind of looks a little clumpy, but that is actually some of the sugars breaking apart as well. I did mix this for quite a bit of time after I added all the last of the lye. It was about 5 minutes or so, maybe even a little bit longer, but that's just the sugars kind of separating. So you just try to get as much as you can into the soap and it'll mix in once we mix everything together. I'm doing this as close as I can to room temperature. I like to let it sit in the milk sit in the oils for just a minute or two and kind of mix it slowly before I actually blend. That's just how I do my milk soaps. And again, if you're looking for other soap tutorials or recipes, I have a lot of milk soaps, of different kinds of milk soaps on my channel. If you just, go look at one of the playlists, I think I have a whole playlist of that, so you can find that there. Today I'm using white tea and ginger as a fragrance oil. This was one of Brambleberry's best sellers. I had other plans for it, but the reason I'm using this is all the reviews said there was no acceleration, so I was hoping that it would be a well-behaving fragrance oil for me, which it was. It worked beautifully. I didn't have any acceleration, deceleration, ricing, anything like that, and I wanted to make sure I'm using a slow trace recipe. I don't use the recipes that are provided by the Soap Club Challenge because every time I've done that, I just screw myself over. I'm not that great of a soaper when I try a new recipe. I usually mess something up. I have a hard time telling if it's going to come to trace quickly or not. I know it depends on your hard and soft oils, but I just like, doing what I do. So I chose the neon colors that I showed earlier in the video and that kind of like teal color. Those are going to be the center part of the design. And then the ombre, which again, this is the first time I'm doing an ombre, so bear with me. I don't know how it's going to come out because I haven't cut the soap yet when I'm recording this part, but you just basically add you can do it one of two ways. You can start off with like part of your soap with the color mixed in and then add more of a white base, or vice versa. Just add a little bit of your mica slowly as you go through. And then you can kind of like gradually get darker where there's less soap and you're adding more mica each time, if that makes sense. So those are the two colors I'm starting on the side. I chose dark pigment colors because I thought they would pop the best once, they were fully pigmented against those neon colors. So that was kind of like when I had them all laying out on the counter, I was like, yes, this looks great. So the purple looks a little poopy brown. I don't like it right now, but again, we'll see how it turns out when we cut it. So for the middle part of the soap, we are just kind of layering, and I'm doing like either a pass or two with each of those neon colors as we go through, and I'm kind of trying to keep the soap that's in the middle at the same level as the ombre soaps that are on the side, if that makes sense. I've never really done a soap with, well, I've done one other soap with dividers. It's not something I do a lot, and I definitely never have done an ombre soap, so we'll see how this turns out. One tip that somebody mentioned in the group when you're doing an ombre soap is you can take the mold and you kind of like tap it on your countertop a couple times to help the ombre blend so you don't have those like harsh lines in between. So I did that a couple times when I made the soap. I hope it didn't ruin the integrity of the other part of the soap, but we'll see again when I cut it, you know, once it's ready. So hopefully that's a helpful tip for you guys if you've never done ombre soap before. This has a lot of techniques in the soap making process as well. So once I was getting to the final parts of adding the soap, I realized it was time to go ahead and wiggle the dividers out. So you just want to give them like a little wiggle and pull them out as slowly as you can so you don't mess up the soap. I actually found it a little bit easier to take those out than I thought it was going to be. And then for the rest of the soap, I kind of just poured as carefully as I could to sort of the edge area of the mold, so I wasn't like mixing the little dividers that much. It's going to happen a little bit, but As long as you pour slow, and if you have one of these cup container thingies like I do, it should work out well. I think I got mine at Wholesale Supplies Plus several years ago, but they sell them on Amazon as well if you want something like that. And then once everything was poured and filled to the top, like I said before, I just went ahead and tapped the mold down onto the counter a few times, and then I let the soap sit for about 2 to 3 minutes before I started the swirling thing, because I couldn't decide what tool I wanted, and I also wanted to make sure that the batter was thick enough, because a couple people said if it was too fluid, that it actually wouldn't make the design, the oasis kind of swirl. So you might need to, depending on your recipe and how everything is going and how the fragrance oil performs and all that good stuff, you might have to wait a few minutes, but I would also have your tool ready just in case. So I used just an old mixer, and basically you just want to make like a heart shape, and you go up and down and around. And the wider you pull this, the better it's going to be, especially if you're doing it double. You can do just the one side if you want, but doing both sides will give you a better oasis swirl. At least that's what the person who came up with this technique said. Edgar, he said to do it that way. Again, you can just do it through one side if you want, but I like to turn my mold because I thought that I would get a better result. And I did have a little bit of extra, so I pulled that to the side and just kind of dumped that in the mold, so that I would, not waste any soap there. So I just tried to turn that around as gently as I could. It is going to wiggle a little bit, but it didn't ruin anything. The best thing, or my favorite thing about this particular soap that I made, is I was really loving the color combinations. I thought the neon colors were popping really bright. I made sure to take a darker colors to kind of help brighten that up and just make sure like the neons really pop amongst those. So when you're doing a soap like this, it's good to kind of plan, get a color scheme going. Again, just do 3 colors in the center and then pick 2 solid colors on the sides, and you'll get pretty much the desired look that you want. I had to let this sit up for a little bit over 24 hours because the soap was really soft, and then even when I took it out of the mold, I know I used sodium lactate, but it was still pretty soft. And I think that's because usually I bring my soap to a little bit thicker trace when I do stuff. I don't usually keep this fluid of a trace when I do things. So I took it out of the mold. I cut about 2 or 3 bars, and then I went ahead and let the rest of the soap sit another day or two because you can see how tacky everything was. And then when I cut it, it's smushy. It's way too soon to cut this particular recipe with that low of a trace. So you can kind of see how the design came through. Again, I haven't perfected this technique, but I thought it was kind of cool how you can kind of see the neon colors and stuff coming through on the sides of the purple and the blue. And as I got closer to the middle, there was a lot more of that going on. So I really love this technique. I will probably try it again with the different color combinations because I think it was pretty fun, and for being such like an intricate design, it really wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. See how they were kind of smearing? This is the best picture I got. Thank you guys for watching.